Oh man, I thought it was so fun. I was having to kind of like dial myself back. There's so
Yeah,
many
I
things.
know.
I wanted to talk about so much more, but I thought to myself, I was like, just zip it. Let's keep it, on where we are right now. And it's such an interesting topic. And to hear from you and Sydney about it on some things that I hadn't even heard, I was like, oh my goodness, we should do this. Is good.
Well, this is what we have the after the jump for, right? It is, when we get two intelligent people on these conversations, like the 15 minutes just isn't enough, right?
Mm-mm.
And especially on something like this. This is one topic. Normally we do these things on what, 3 or 4 topics. And I think we could probably talk for another, I don't know, hour, right? Was there anything that you wanted to cover at all that we didn't hit on more?
Man, I mean, there's a lot to talk about. Okay, because you had mentioned development, right? But I was talking on the social aspect, but let's go to the developers now. So a lot of developers are using this to be able to push out code, or they'll say, hey, I want to be able to look at the logs, and they'll be able to put something in and immediately be able to push it out to get a good set of code. The problem though is that code has not been tested for injection purposes. It's not been like no penetration testing has really gone against it. And so you can come in and create that kind of code. Now they're also worried about the hackers being able to come in and ask to create the code to dig in on that, which now you have the snake and the frog, where if the snake keeps getting more venomous, but the frog doesn't, then that's not going to benefit the frog. So they have to kind of both go back and forth. And that goes back to what we talked about before. You need to regulate this thing and address the issues up front before something gets, I'll say it here. We can cut it if you want.
Sure. Yeah.
Think of it like, I thought of this when you look at nuclear power, right? The benefits behind nuclear power are outstanding.
Insane.
But when they come, right. But when they come and they actually decide where they're going to put these plants, they have to look at things from, okay, the safety of putting it in. What is the benefit of doing it? And if something goes wrong, what is the worst disaster that can happen? And it has to measure up. The ends have to justify the means. So, I thought about that with Gen AI. I was like, man, I don't want to say it's the next nuclear, but it could.
And the fact that we're comparing it to a bomb now just shows. I mean,
the checks and balances has to be there, right?
Yeah.
It has to be. You're both spot on. I mean, from my opinion, where this can so spiral out of control. Or when this first came out, I know I was watching an interview with Sam Altman, who is the head of ChatGPT, and talking about what if this power only resides in the hands of 3 to 12 individuals to control everything that goes in, right? To protect it, to get all the money that could come from it, to own all that data. And what if they are careless where it's in that, couple repositories, and Lee, you mentioned someone hacks into it, right? I mean, and that's spread everywhere. It's something that's mind boggling, and I'm just surprised it took this long for a response.
Right.
Yeah. Cindy, what do you think? Go ahead.
I mean, this has always been like, I've known, because I used to really like Elon. I think right now I'm kind of mixed emotions on him. But back in the day, I just found him interesting because he was so ahead of his time and his research and stuff. And I just remember that I distinctly remember when Elon went to the Obama administration and said, listen, we need to get on this. It was like back in 2008. There's a lot of things coming within AI and we need to do something about this. And we had other issues too at the time with a lot of things. And I think they pushed it to the side and they're like, oh, well, we'll worry about that later sort of mindset. And then now here we are, fast forward many years later. And then now it's only coming to fruition now.
Great. Isn't that the concern with in the hand? Well, you have I don't know which one is more of a scary situation. The concern with the government where they're slow to catch up. They just are slow moving, I guess, institution, right? And that's not really anybody's fault, depending on how you look at it. And then the corporations, you have, again, they are catering to the shareholders. Right. So
it was mentioned that the Trump administration too, them as well, and they pushed it to the side. So, I'm just glad something is being made. And I think Gen AI had like a big push for all this to occur.
And it's crazy, right? To think about how there was no response. Lee, you're in this space more than anybody. Do you think they didn't realize that the future is now? Is that kind of what was happening?
I think so. And I really think, how would I put this? So in a crisis, or when a specific set of people are maybe going through something, that group really is going to speak about it because they're the ones going through it. But sometimes the others may not see it as the same way, or they may not experience it the same way until something like it happens to them. And then once it happens to them, or they see, oh, this could impact what it is that I have going on, which should not be the case for what the government is thinking, right? But if that's what's happening here, is that now you're seeing that, hey, this could get out of hand on my look, on if I just want to get information out to the public and I want to be trusted in what it is that I say, then you're going to have to get in front of this, because it's here, right? It's already here. What you mentioned, Rich, the future is now, and I would say that we're behind the 8 ball, unfortunately.
And I love that point of the, I guess, lack of empathy as well, right? Where people don't put themselves in other people's shoes, and sometimes it's impossible. But at least be empathetic or sympathetic even. And I'm wondering if the situation here, like for instance, they have to review the testing, right? Yes. The results of the testing. I mean, I wonder if that's just them kind of almost checking the box. Will they have the type of resources to even know what to do? Or would they even be able to stop a Microsoft from really releasing it?
Cognition has something big going on. They talk about whenever their organizational change is happening. I remember I was speaking with members of your team, and they mentioned when the technology changes, you also have to think about how the company operates, how it's organized, and how it behaves.
Everything.
Right? So with those 3 things, if we're now going to come in, as you mentioned, Rich, and audit Microsoft, right, or be there to be that check and balance, well, how are you currently organized? How are you currently operating, and how are you currently behaving? If that's not up to this standard, we have an opportunity here. We have an opportunity to get better quickly, I would say.
And one thing, I do want to pass that to Sydney, but another great point. It's kind of like, someone who's not a parent telling somebody how to be a parent, right? Potentially, and be like, well, you don't know, right? In my sense, giving Lee some parenting advice, I have no clue. I'm still working on myself. And so, but I mean, that's kind of what it feels like, right? Is they're trying to play the parent role without knowing this, and then saying, oh yeah, no, that's great. Good job. And then moving it along. Right. Sydney, go ahead.
I was just going to say, well, that mindset's kind of egocentric, going back to the empathy piece and the sympathy piece. There's not enough of that. So it's just, I'm not scared quite yet. I'm just a lot of just questions. I just have so many questions about what the heck's going on, what's to come. And I'm excited to see what's to come when this does hit legislation. I'm going to keep up with this as much as possible, because this is the future. This is such a huge bill, and I just hope everything gets done in a good way.
And before we wrap up, I want to obviously give you guys anything else that you want to add, but a few quick things that we didn't get to touch on in depth that makes this a really good act, right? As well as advancing equality and civil rights. So they're going to address algorithms. They're going to create clear guidance for landlords and federal benefits programs, right? A lot of challenges with landlords, especially recently. And then supporting workers, support collective bargaining agreements, invest in training, guidance to prevent undercompensation, and then evaluation for job applications, which I think is going to play great parts in a variety of different areas. I don't know if y'all want to add anything to that at all. I thought those, if we can even just build off of that, then this act is worth its weight in gold.
This is just a complete side note. When you mentioned landlords, I actually heard recently real estate agents kind of tying into deepfakes. They are putting inaccurate pictures up of houses, and it's hurting the real estate market right now as well.
Yeah, I would have. The way they take the picture, the way they add things, yeah, I could see that. Lee, anything to add on that as we get towards wrapping up?
No, I'm disappointed to hear that. I'm not surprised, but I'm disappointed. But as what you had mentioned before, though, we have to be able to, like in blockchain, you can trace it back to the origination of what it is. I would want to know. I want to live in a world where I can see a photo and I know if that was done by an actual human or if it was generated by a computer. I think the watermark is an awesome idea for starters, but we'll need to kind of evaluate that as we go.
I'm with you. I saw a picture the other day. I have no idea if it was real, fake, just, okay, cool. By the way, I like the way you added a little bit of blockchain in there. So I know next time we have a discussion on crypto or blockchain, I'm giving you a buzz.
Please do.
Yeah. All right, team. We'll do this again. Sound like a plan?
Does.
Yes, this was fun.
Yes.
Awesome. I'll see y'all.
Thank you.